First for 2022. My name is Michael Oliver and I am the head of marketing at client server tech recruitment. This is the first Talking Tech Recruitment webinar we've done for this year. In the past, we have explored issues ranging from diversity in the tech sector through to startups, through to everything in between. And that's what we're aiming to do more of in 2022. We want to explore the big issues that are shaping the tech industry, everything from recruitment through to how to even start a tech business. All of that will be covered and more. And you can follow us on LinkedIn, on the client server LinkedIn page, and also on YouTube on the client server YouTube page as well. This is streaming live, and it will also be available on demand after the webinar is over. But let's get right down to the nitty-gritty. In 2021, the UK tech sector we raised a record £30 billion. A record amount of venture capital has gone into the industry, and a lot of people, by virtue of the way that the pandemic has played out, and perhaps even a sort of reshuffling, a great resignation to do more than simply do a job, but actually start something big and start something new. So there's been a surge in a number of people starting the businesses, particularly in the tech sector. But there are some pitfalls, and there are some things that entrepreneurs, would-be entrepreneurs, could be aware of and should be aware of if they're aiming to start a new business. Unfortunately, here on Talking Tech, we've got the man who can help, who can shape your thinking if you're looking at starting a new business in the tech sector, or if you're just thinking about starting a business in general. This is the guy to help. His name is James Shoemark. He is the co-founder and CEO of the Startup Race. James, welcome along. Good afternoon.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Michael. It's great to be here. It's great to be doing something new. The future is bright. Once, if we get to know each other and embrace new technology. So it's great to be here. Thanks.
Fantastic. James, can you start by sort of introducing the Startup Race? What is it that you're aiming to do?
Well, we used to run lots of events in Edinburgh. We were actually above on the top floor of the Skyscanner building, which is one of Scotland's unicorns. And a young entrepreneur asked me how we could gamify the startup process, and I thought, well, that's an interesting idea. And after thinking about it a little bit, I realized that a competition, a growth hacking competition is perhaps one of the easiest ways to gamify the startup process. Also, it helps entrepreneurs focus on the most important thing that they should be doing, because it's very easy to do the wrong thing, to invest your time and energy and money in doing things that aren't really going to help you be successful. So we came up with the idea of running £1 million startup race, and this will be a growth hacking competition. And the idea is that we partner with investors, and so the winner of the, let's say, £1 million startup race will get an investment deal, whether it's an angel investor or a VC. It's an opportunity for us so essentially we're kind of like talent spotters. So we identify entrepreneurs who can get stuff done, who can generate sales. And this is, of course, the thing that investors are looking for, investable companies. And so in some ways we attract lots of entrepreneurs who are going to compete against each other. And we have a process where we benchmark them. And so each week, the positions, it's like a league table. We'll have the Premier League, and then we'll have the divisions below that, but we'll only really make the Premier League public for the people who are taking part in our startup races. And the idea is just really to find people who can score goals, essentially, and generate revenue.
It really sounds almost to me like it's the best parts of something like Shark Tank and Dragon's Den, and The Apprentice as well. It gives you, something to work with, but at the same time, there is a very strong business sense behind it as well, because obviously you can't succeed in the startup race unless you've got a strong business to make that happen.
Yeah. So I would say that, the Shark Tank and Dragon's Den are very different from The Apprentice, and we're more closely aligned with The Apprentice because you can actually look at what people do over a set period of time. The Dragon's Den, Shark Tank is very much, you've got to give your best presentation right now. Why not just hire an actor like George Clooney to give you a presentation? Or, in a pitching competition, It's all about the charisma and the public speaking and the polished performance. Whereas the apprentice, you put people in the deep end, you stretch them out of their comfort zone, and you see, what their personality makeup is like, whether they can take the pressure, whether they're resourceful, whether they can actually sell. And so we're more closely aligned with the apprentice. And so investors can observe the people who take part in our competitions and get to know them over a period of time before they decide, whether they want to invest in someone or not.
What's the process for joining the startup race? Do you need to have an established business, or can you literally turn up with an idea and say, I want to use this as the mechanism to get this started?
Well, this time we ran a race just as COVID was hitting the world. It was a very much an impromptu sign up, take part race, and of course it was affected by COVID and the lockdowns. This time we're doing a race where people can invest time and energy benefiting from the world's number one entrepreneurial resource, lean stack. And on this platform, they're able to use, create a lean business model canvas. They're able to look at the traction roadmap and work out how many sales they can achieve and how much it's going to cost to achieve those sales. A lot of people don't have a clue about the cost of acquiring a customer. They think, yeah, we're going to have all this revenue, we're going to make all these millions of pounds, but they don't have a clue about how much money or fuel or that they need to put into the jet engine for their startup for the rocket to take off. And so, so we're having this, people can invest time and energy learning and preparing for the race. And then we have a team building hackathon, so you'll be able to recruit people to join your team, or somebody might be able to join somebody else's team if they like their idea better. And then, so that's on the 27th of May, the hackathon. And then the race itself starts on the 14th of June, and it will run until Christmas Eve. And so somebody will win £10,000 cash in their bank account for Christmas. We do have a range of other runner-up prizes as well, so it's not just one person. And so this process, or this, what we're trying to do now is slightly different in that people can prepare, but essentially to make sure everyone is starting at the same place. We can't have someone who's generating £5,000 a month revenue already, because they'll have an advantage. And so it's ideally new start businesses. People have always thought, I've got this idea, don't know whether it's going to work or not. This is an opportunity for you to give it a go. And of course, you'll be motivated if you're number one 1 week, and then somebody comes along and knocks you down to number 5. You'll be really motivated and creative to, okay, how can I be number 1 again? And necessity is a mother of invention. And so we're creating this kind of energy, this kind of motivation for entrepreneurs who are competitive, want to win, but also have a business that will hopefully make a difference in the world.
Fantastic. And you yourself have a fairly storied history as an entrepreneur. But I understand you started your first business in 1991, sort of importing motorcycles from the US. Yeah, how has being an entrepreneur kind of like helped you to shape not only the startup race, but just kind of approach thinking about business?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think the way back in 91, I found myself in Los Angeles. I had a work visa. I was working as a motorcycle courier. It was good fun. When I had to go fast, I just used to turn my baseball hat around the other way. So I was riding around Los Angeles. It was in my shorts. It's a bit of a fantasy, really. But I saw an opportunity to make lots of money, because the motorcycles, you could buy them for $200 and sell them for £2,000 in the UK. So I saw this opportunity, and I thought, well, why not? I managed to persuade the Bank of Scotland to give me an overdraft. But I wasn't really trained or disciplined. I didn't have the organizational skills then. I was still quite young. But I saw the opportunity and I gave it a go, and it was good fun. I think so that was one aspect. I mean, it's a challenge, to be successful in entrepreneurship, and either you need to have the right mindset or you need to have some domain expertise, I think. I got the bug, as it were. I went on to do a few different things, but then I was always coming back to entrepreneurship. So it was either personal development or entrepreneurship, and together in the startup race, we're combining the two.
Mm-hmm. So you did mention earlier that when COVID hit, that kind of had an impact on the startup race in general, but certainly it's had, I mean, it's almost a misnomer to say it might have had an effect on the whole economy. It has in many ways reshaped a lot of how we do everything from work through to lifestyle and everything in between. In terms of entrepreneurship and certainly the way the market is shaped up in the UK, what have you noticed in the last 12 months? How has the entrepreneur market shifted?
Well, I think with COVID has been a big trigger, what we call a trigger. Things are really different right now. And there's kind of been two types of people: those that have been wringing their hands and thinking, "Oh no, life is not going to be the same." And then there's been the other type of people who've seen the opportunity to do things different. And in China, 20 people became billionaires directly related to COVID. And so some people have seen the opportunity to do things differently. And here we are, we're using new technology to help people. And so I think it depends on which camp you find yourself. Now, a lot of businesses have obviously struggled. We used to run lots of local events. We couldn't do that anymore. We had always wanted to develop an accelerator program, and that was always at the back of our minds. And so we decided to invest our time and energy in doing that. And we're now supporting 50 entrepreneurs since last year. I think it was April last year. And so I think a number of people have seen the opportunity too. And a number of people have carried on regardless, their business. So we have one entrepreneur who has started an innovative waste recycling business here in the UK called MobiSkip, a Californian entrepreneur. Two of them actually, they saw the opportunity to come to the UK. And so they were able to, well, not ignore COVID, but certainly their business was solving a problem that wasn't affected by COVID. Now, they did have some issues bringing their containers or their equipment from China, because the price of shipping went up like 10 times, and it took longer. But I think it really depends on what type of person you are and what type of business you're in.
I mentioned right at the beginning that it was £30 billion worth of funding had gone into tech startups in the last year, which is just a crazy amount of money. But it's certainly sort of indicative of the way, particularly the tech market is shifting. And we've noticed here at Client Server, we've seen a massive increase in the number of people applying for tech roles. Certainly our website has never seen the amount of traffic that has seen. So the tech sector is not just heating up, it's red hot right now. Have you sort of noticed that as well, that you've seen an increase in the number of sort of tech-related businesses interested in the startup race, or just in general, is it your sense that more and more tech startups are cropping up?
Well, I guess if I think about the people who've signed up for our accelerator program, there is a certain percentage who are doing waste recycling, but then we also have a large number of people who want to do tech businesses. And in some ways, you could say, people couldn't work; they were on furlough, or when they could perhaps go back to work. We have this phenomenon called the Great Resignation. People, have proven that they can work productively at home, yet the bosses perhaps aren't supportive or able to move with the new environment. And so a lot of people have been reevaluating their lives and thinking, well, am I going to, work in this crap job for the rest of my life, or I'm going to do something different? So I do think that some people have seen the opportunity to do new tech and, to start a tech business. I think there's always this creative people who see the opportunity to solve a problem or to do things differently. And so I think probably there's been two types of people: those who want to change their situation and do something differently in a tech startup, or there's been those people who have been thinking about it for a bit longer. So I guess the change really is in how long have people been thinking about this? We do, the VCs that we know. So, for instance, Paul Atkinson at Paraquity, he saw the opportunity, to in the new environment there'll be lots of opportunities to support and invest in. So hopefully that answers that question.
Absolutely, and certainly it's never as simple. It can be as simple as coming up with a great idea and starting a business, but for many, particularly those who are thinking about starting up a new business in the tech sector, there's a lot of things to consider. Whether you not only have like the right tech stack, the right people to help lift things up, and what the idea of scaling would look like should businesses get there. What are some of the things that budding entrepreneurs come to you and ask advice about? What are some of the hot topics that you get where you get like your brain picked? What are those?
Well, I think a lot of entrepreneurs want to raise investment. They think that is the answer to their problems, their startup problems. They don't realize that if they don't understand if they haven't got a problem solution fit, if they haven't got product market fit, then there's a good chance that they could, with funding, drive their startup into a wall and it'll explode. So if they're going to be raising investment, then they need to understand the formula, as it were, for success: A plus B equals C. And the startup, it's temporary organization. It's only meant the last 2 years. It's meant to. Its mission is to find a repeatable business model that works. And so a lot of entrepreneurs, they're in love with the dream. They want to build this thing. They have this creative desire, but they don't necessarily have the discipline like I had when I was a younger entrepreneur to really sit down and to validate their thinking. We had one team show us their potential shareholders agreement, and they were thinking, the equity that they were prepared to sell for the amount of money was completely inappropriate. And that's just because they didn't really know. They didn't have any experience or any understanding in this field. And with entrepreneurship, there's just so much, that entrepreneurs need to learn. But it's really important that you focus your time on the most critical things. It's like you have to triage your time and energy and your money just to focus on very narrowly on one thing. And it's very easy to ignore advice. And I remember I was given advice a long time ago to focus on one particular niche in a market, and I wanted to do the big market. But I didn't realize that at that time, when you focus on one particular niche in a market, it's cheaper. It's still expensive for you to market and to try and acquire this customer. But if you have a wide focus, it's just going to be phenomenally expensive. And so there's all sorts of problems that entrepreneurs make. Generally, they become victim of their own reality distortion field. They fall in love with their idea and build something nobody wants. And so that's the challenge. And what we try to prevent people from doing is make sure that there's demand. They know who the customer is and how to access, acquire them before they do anything else, really.
So what are some of you mentioned like the method for success, like A plus B equals C. Is it as simple? I mean, it sounds simple. Like it's working out your proposition, working out your take to market strategy, and everything that kind of goes in between there. But what are some of the very kind of like simple steps that an entrepreneur, someone who's perhaps working in the tech sector and who gets the tech side of things, can build a fantastic product, but may not have the sort of business savvy to get things started. What are those first, say, 4 or 5 steps to get a business up and running?
Well, I think it's important to remember that people have been talking and thinking about this for quite a while now. So, for instance, Eric Ries, when he wrote his book, The Lean Startup, he has, in the very beginning of his book, and he's the main premise of the book is that it took him 6 months to writing code to discover that nobody wanted what he'd built. And so then he thought, man, I could have been maybe I could have tried to find this whether somebody wanted it or not, without me writing 6 months of code, because I could have just spent that time on the beach rather than writing code. So that's where he came up with the idea of the minimum viable product. So it's the smallest thing that you can build to create value for your customer. Well, we've actually taken that one step further, and we recommend people build a minimum revenue product. So this is like the smallest thing that you can sell. I was having a chat with an entrepreneur the other day there. She could sell an hour of her time as an expert, with her domain expertise on her webpage. She could even use Calendly, for people to schedule an hour consultation with her. She could charge £10, £20, £100, whatever. So it's now, of course, once you've created that, you put it out there into the public, you get some feedback. Oh, nobody is responding. Nobody's even seeing my ad. How do I market my business? And you've got to understand, if it costs you, a pound or £10 to acquire a customer, and let's say you acquire 100 customers, only 10% of them are going to be activated, and only 10% of them are actually going to buy. So you're lucky if you're doing 1%, 2% conversion. And if it costs you, so if it costs you £10 to acquire that customer, and you're only making £100, from one, it's a danger that you could be, running out of money or making a massive loss. So you need to understand, and Eric Ries talks about this in his book, the cost of acquiring a customer needs to be far cheaper than the money you make, the lifetime value of the customer. So that's the kind of sum that we use. We have created so the job of the entrepreneur is to concentrate on the acquisition to activation conversion ratio, and then they need to focus on the conversion to revenue conversion ratio. These are the two, most important numbers that you need to look at in your business, because if you just focus, you write your business plan, you're going to make all this money. One entrepreneur, he realized to achieve his revenue, he needed to have 8,000 people coming into his business premises a day because he had this lovely revenue figure, but it was completely impractical. So he decided not to go down that business route, did something else.
If you are someone like you are a very tech-minded person in that, building code, building up a product and spending time on that is your kind of thing, but you are looking for someone to partner up with, what would you say would be the sort of ideal person to join you as a co-founder? Is it someone who's more sort of financially literate, or someone who's got who's been there, done that from a business perspective? What kind of person makes a great co-founder for someone who's a very kind of techie-minded person?
Well, actually, I've got the T-shirt that we got these designed for our League of Entrepreneurs meetup group, and this is the hustler. I kind of see myself as the hustler. So rather than take my T-shirt off and show you the back, I'll just turn around. Hopefully you can see that. There's the designer and the hacker, and then the hustler.
Yeah.
So,
holy triad.
It's the holy trinity of startup founding teams. And I think Microsoft, we had you can see that. Bill Gates was the hacker. I think Paul Allen was the hustler with Apple. Steve Jobs was the hustler. Steve Wozniak was the hacker, and maybe Jonathan Ives was the designer. And it's really difficult to build a startup on your own. And you definitely, we recommend you to build a team, to bring people into your team, not only to do the things that you can't do. So, for instance, sell. A software developer very often is an introvert, and they don't like the idea of selling. Now, of course, Jeff Bezos has created the ultimate system, so his software does the selling.
Yeah.
So if you're an introvert software developer, you need to find a co-founder who will help you sell the business, who believes in your vision, sees the potential, understands, where you want to go in the future.
And let's just say you've got, you've started a business, you secured that seed funding, things are kind of moving along great, and you're thinking about beginning to scale and start applying for Series A, or even if you've got Series A, you're thinking about Series B funding and thinking about scaling things even further, is it a case of just doing more of the same but a larger volume, or are there some things that businesses who've really got off to a flying start and who are doing really well, are there some mistakes that they make when they're looking to scale beyond that? And what's some advice you could give someone to kind of avoid some of the obvious pitfalls?
Well, I think I was reminded of one story about Skyscanner, and there was a board meeting, and there were a number of VC investors on the board, and of course, when you have investors on your team, you have to comply with their agenda, or well, not their agenda, sorry, but you need to, you're no longer in control. And there's either two types of entrepreneur: either you want to have control and make all the decisions and you bootstrap, or you want to become rich and you want to bring in investment for your company and you're happy to give away a certain degree of control. And in this board meeting, one of the hopefully I won't get anybody in trouble with this, but one of the board members said, "Oh, I've just been on a meeting with Kayak. They're going to dominate America, so let's concentrate on Europe." So Skyscanner made that strategic decision. They were going to concentrate on Europe. They weren't going to go head to head with Kayak, and so that's the benefits of having well-connected people on your board, people obviously who are invested in your success, and have this experience and insight to advise you. And if a startup is, as I said before, it's a temporary organization. It's in search of a business model that works. A scale up is a repeat, is where you repeat, the rinse and repeat. And you could say that it's more suited to MBA types who are just going to do the same thing every day. You're going to do the same thing, look at numbers, look at spreadsheets, concentrate on figures. And of course, you do need to be careful if you're going for Series A, Series B, Series C, and you need to understand that, what goes on in this type of investment deals. Unfortunately, we had FanDuel, which was another of Scotland's unicorns, and because of the preferential rights that the VC investors had, when the company was sold, their founders ended up with nothing because they only had ordinary shares. And a lot of investors ended up with nothing because they didn't follow on with the funding rounds. Some did. Ian Ritchie, for instance, he with his experience, he decided to follow on with his investment in FanDuel, and so when the sale came, he was able to get a return on his money. So there's, as you know, perhaps one thing to say: Gareth Williams, the founder of Skyscanner, very often the entrepreneurs get replaced because they haven't got the mindset, haven't got the skill set, haven't got the discipline, to build a scale up. I know that Gareth Williams had a number of coaches who were helping him manage the change, manage the new challenges in his business. And so he's an example of someone who went from the startup all the way to, building a unicorn and remaining the CEO of the business. So there's a whole bunch of new challenges that you really need to understand. And it's really important that you build your network of advisors, people who understand the challenges, so you can avoid making these disastrous mistakes.
Absolutely, and certainly I've sort of sensed that among a lot of sort of perhaps younger tech entrepreneurs, there is the almost sense that they're going to be the next Bezos, the next Zuckerberg, they're going to build the next unicorn. And certainly, given that the number of unicorns that have sprung up in the last 12 months, the volume has increased. But if you were to sort of not to kind of dampen anyone's kind of dream and kind of like let them think that this is a fruitless venture, because it certainly isn't, what would you say a reasonable marker of success would be for a tech entrepreneur? Is that more like a how long is a piece of string type of question?
Well, obviously it's dependent on the person, what their dreams are, whether they want to be in control, whether they want to become rich. And so it's very dependent on each individual person. And I recommend people read the Founder's Dilemma, just way to work out, what type of entrepreneur they are. This is one of the books that we recommend people read. and it's all got all sorts of equity problems to avoid with your co-founders.
Yeah.
But I believe that success, it's a quote by Earl Nightingale. So success is the continued realization of a worthy ideal. So as long as you're working towards your business, you're making progress. It's like getting training for a marathon. If you, every day you keep training, every day you keep training, at some point you will obviously run the race, and but to finish. A lot of people think, hey, I'm successful if I finish the race. Some people think, well, I'm successful if I win the race. So the good thing with entrepreneurship is there's no rules really. People can, they can create new ways of doing things. And I would say that really, we're still at the beginning of the tech age. There's so much more to come with, blockchain, AI, colonization of the planets. We're at the beginning.
At the beginning, absolutely. Just thinking, the best way to sort of join the startup race and get in touch with you. What's the best way for a startup that's kind of thinking of kicking things off? What's the best way to get involved with the startup race?
Oh, thanks for that, Michael. I do appreciate that. Well, people can go to our website, thestartuprace.com. There's 3 words, the startup race, and look at the top link. They can see a link that will take them to our page where they can register their interest in the competition. Or you can subscribe to our channel on YouTube, and you can, benefit from the interviews that we've recorded over time. And we have some information on there about our £10,000 startup race too, where they can contact us on Twitter, Instagram, and a whole bunch of, or LinkedIn. There's a whole bunch of different ways. People just, DM me or mention me or something like that. Thanks.
Awesome. Fantastic. And just before we wrap up, if you were to give your top 3 pieces of advice for any would-be entrepreneur, kind of short and snappy, you've got 30 seconds in an elevator with them, what would your 3 big pieces of advice be?
Well, create a minimum revenue product and try and sell it. Or if you don't want to do that, find someone who will help you to do that. That's it.
That's as simple as that, isn't it? It's a why complicate it? It really is can be condensed down to that.
Yeah. So one of the mistakes I made in my business previously, I spent 6 months on a business plan for a juicing business I wanted to bring from California, because people love juicing there and had these amazing recipes, thought it would be super, healthy. And instead of wasting 6 months on writing a business plan, this was a long time ago, I got really bad advice. I should have just had a pop-up juice bar in the meadows, a table, some stuff I'd made, and hot sunny day, see if anyone would buy it. So you've got to avoid overcomplicating things and wasting time, just really doing the wrong thing. So just, lemonade stand, just an hour of your time. There's, just put something, use Calendly, or just have you create a YouTube channel or a Facebook group or whatever, and just see if anyone will join your community and follow you, because what you're talking about solves a problem that they have.
Fantastic. It's strong advice, not just for any for individual tech startups, but certainly anyone who's considering a journey into entrepreneurship themselves. James, that's all the time we've got here on Talking Tech. Thank you so much for your time. And just one more time, what's the web URL for the startup race?
So it's thestartuprace.com.
Thestartuprace.com. Brilliant.
Yeah.
And you can get in touch with you through the website, and they can connect with you on LinkedIn.
Yeah, that would be great. I appreciate it, Michael. Fantastic. And hopefully we can connect as well.
Absolutely, we'll aim to do that. And we'll be back in a fortnight with another edition of Talking Tech. You can follow Client Server on LinkedIn. We are there at Client Server, and you can certainly follow us on our other social channels too. We're on YouTube as well as Instagram. And if you are looking to expand your hiring in the tech sector, or even if you're looking for a new role right now, the great great reshuffle / resignation, whatever you want to call it, is hot right now. And certainly we have a large number of jobs that we are looking to fill. So if you're interested in shifting your career, this is the first place to come to. So from me here at Client Server and from James, thank you very much, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you. Thank you.